Well, it's that time of the year again. It's the spooky month of October. Ooh, spooky. And that means it's time for me to be taking a look at another horror film. And what's more horrifying than a bunch of weirdos who took the concept of BDSM a little too far, wanting to stick a bunch of hooks in you and dragging you to hell? Actually, that sounds like a good Friday night. Anyway, it's Hellraiser. We're taking a look at Hellraiser in this video. But before we start, if you enjoy this video, then please do give it a like, as it really does help out the channel. So let's not waste any more time and get stuck in, because if you had questions like what changes were made from book to film, what's all this about a remake, and some sort of hilarious third question, probably. Anyway, we got the answers for you. Oh, would you look at that? It's number 1. So, Hellraiser is a 1987 supernatural horror film written and directed by Clive Barker. This film is an adaptation of the 1986 novel The Hellbound Heart, which was also written by Clive Barker. Man, this man is a sadistic, busy little bee. Hellraiser would also be Barker's directorial debut, which would also further cement Barker's position as a staple name in modern-day horror. The film follows... how the hell do I describe the plot of this film? The film follows a couple, Larry and Julia, and Larry's daughter, Kirsty, as the couple moves into a new home, which happens to be the same house in which, unknown to the couple, where Larry's brother Frank was torn apart by chains after messing about with a mysterious puzzle box known as the Lament Configuration. But don't feel bad for him, because, well, Frank's a prick. Soon after, blood is spilled in the same room Frank had died, and through some sort of hocus pocus, Frank returns as a barely functioning corpse and manages to persuade Julia, who he had a previous affair with, to help him return to full human form by luring in victims into the room and, well, killing them. After Larry's daughter Kirsty discovers what has been happening, she happens to get her hands on the puzzle box, summoning a group of humanoid beings known as the Cenobites. And what follows is a lot of blood, a lot of hooks, and some very uncomfortable uncle situations. Hellraiser is also notable for spawning a new pop culture horror legend in the form of Pinhead. Pinhead. It's number 2. So, as mentioned earlier, this film is actually based on Barker's own book, The Hellbound Heart. This was a unique situation when it came to translating the book to screen, as Barker had written the story himself and now had to create his own film adaptation based on his own work. The end result is actually fairly similar to the original source material, with a few notable changes. First is the simple name change of Larry. In the book, his name is Rory. Kirsty is also different from her book counterpart, as in that she's not Larry's daughter, but instead an old friend who has a thing for Larry, or Rory. Oh, I can see this becoming a problem. In the film, Frank is seen acquiring the puzzle box somewhere in Morocco, while in the book, Frank purchases it in Germany. The book also goes into more detail about the Cenobites. The book also goes into more detail about the extreme senses that Frank experiences through the Cenobites. And, well, it gets a little weird and graphic, and it's definitely not something I should talk about here. Pinhead also receives a change from book to movie. In the movie, Pinhead is shown to be a man, but in the books, Pinhead is a woman. The reason for this particular change might have been a product of the time, as most 80s horror movie villains were seen to be male. Ooh, it's number 3. Clive Barker had been disappointed with the adaptations of his past works, and so decided he wanted to adapt his own work himself. New World Pictures agreed upon this and granted the production a budget of $900,000, which isn't really a lot. Hellraiser was shot in 1986 and took 10 weeks to complete. The film was originally titled under the name Sadomasochist from Beyond the Grave. Barker then claimed that he wanted the film to be called Hellbound, just as the book was titled, but it was producer Christopher Figg who suggested the title of Hellraiser. This was Barker's first directing gig, and Barker himself even stated that he had no idea what he was doing. If you thought the locations and the accents didn't really match, well, you'd be right, because this film was originally set in England and was actually shot in London. However, the studio thought that the film would be more marketable if the film was set in America, so that's exactly what they did. This meant that some of the actors that appeared in the film with English accents had to be dubbed over with American actors. And the results are kind of crap. Oh, number 4. Hellraiser introduced us to the Cenobites, a group of weirdos whose mums never loved them. Oh wait, no, I meant this.
Explorers in the further regions of experience, demons to some, angels to others.
The Cenobites are extra-dimensional beings from hell and are part of a group known as the Order of the Gash, which is just the worst name. Ugh. The Cenobites describe themselves as explorers in the further reaches of experience, and they can no longer distinguish between pain and pleasure, often experiencing them as one in the same. Clive Barker's inspiration for the Cenobites, both in his books and the film, came from several sources, including punk fashion, the Catholic religion, and a visit to several SMN clubs in New York City and Amsterdam. The film features 4 Cenobites, all based on their book counterparts, and yes, they all have names. They include Butterball, the Chatterer, Pinhead, and the Female. What an inspired name. Much like the book, the Cenobites play less of an antagonistic role, leaving that up to Julia and Frank, and more of an impartial anti-heroes. Although, spoiler alert, they do try and get Kirsty at the end. But hey, they're just having a bit of fun. However, once the film was released, Pinhead became a fan favourite and audiences wanted to see more of him and the other Cenobites. Future sequels would centre their stories around Pinhead, making him more of a villain as the series went on. Also, he seems to like to laugh a lot in those films. He's just a happy chap. I got 5 on it. Oh, copyright strike. Despite having very little screen time, Pinhead indeed is the standout character within this film. Clive Barker was writing the script for Hellraiser during the height of the slasher film craze, with franchises like A Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, and Halloween being very popular with audiences at the time. These films usually had an emotionless brute force of a killer such as Michael Myers or Jason, or more of a quippy character full of twisted personalities and some really bad jokes, like Freddy or Chucky. To help Pinhead stand out, Barker intentionally created him to be more of an articulate and intelligent character. However, the producers were having none of it, and strongly suggested that Barker make him more like Freddy Krueger, with Pinhead cracking jokes. Clive Barker resisted those requests, however, and aimed to have Pinhead's personality be similar to Christopher Lee's portrayal of Count Dracula. Doug Bradley, who played Pinhead, had only ever acted within the theatre. This would be his first film role. Barker and Bradley discussed the character of Pinhead in length when creating the first film, and it was decided early on that Pinhead was once a human being. Doug Bradley used this information to help shape his performance of Pinhead. Pinhead himself was originally named The Priest and then changed to the lead Cenobite. Eventually though, through the fans and the makeup department, the name Pinhead became the unofficial name of the character and later the official name. Clive Barker, however, greatly disliked the name of Pinhead, describing it as undignified to the character. I mean, the character literally has pins in his head. I'm just saying. Oh, don't believe it, it's number 6. Actor Nicholas Vince lived near Clive Barker and really appreciated his work. Later, Barker suggested that they work together, which eventually led to the collaboration on Hellraiser, in which Vince played the role of the Chatterer. The face for the Chatterer was a one-piece mask, which when put on rendered Nicholas Vince completely blind. The chattering teeth was a set of fake teeth fitted into the mask and was triggered by Nicholas biting down inside the mask. These teeth meant that Vince had difficulty eating anything. The teeth were then redesigned to be removable. In the sequel Hellbound, the design of the Chatterer was changed to make the mask easier to be worn and was given eyes so that Vince could see. Number 7, baby. Number 7. The original cut for this film was given an X rating, and the filmmakers were forced to make some cuts in order to reduce the film's rating to an R. Most of these cuts concerned various shots of gore and nudity. Some examples include a longer scene of Frank being torn apart in which his head explodes with his brain splashing out. Lovely. And a more explicit sex scene between Julia and Frank, which according to Barker had some spanking in it. Oh no. Oh, it's just too much sexiness for Hollywood to handle. You wanna know a secret? It's number 8. During the end of the movie, many viewers picked up on something, and that something was just how shit the effects were. Clive Barker addressed this by explaining that due to a very limited budget on the film, there was no money left to have the effects done professionally at the end. So Barker had to take matters into his own hands and create the effects himself, alongside some mysterious fella Barker refers to as a Greek guy. Clive Barker states that he thought the effects turned out fairly well considering the amount of alcohol the two consumed during that weekend. Yes, that's the way to do it. Just get shit-faced. Good heavens, number 9. In 2006, Dimension Films announced a remake of the original Hellraiser film. This was during the time where basically every fucking 80s horror movie was being remade. In 2007, French filmmakers Julien Maury and Alexandre Bustillo would take on the remake as writers and directors. However, they shortly left the project. When interviewed about the reason for their departure, they stated their vision for the remake clashed with the studios. Maury and Bustillo 10 years later would go on to make a prequel of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre titled Leatherface. In 2013, Clive Barker announced that he would personally be taking on the remake. Barker's intention for the remake was to push for practical effects rather than CGI and to have Doug Bradley back in the role of Pinhead. However, years went by and no further news about the project surfaced. It wasn't until the successful release of 2018's Halloween that news about the remake began to circle again. Miramax Films confirmed it was considering on creating a new installment in the Hellraiser franchise. In 2021, it was confirmed that Pinhead would be a woman like in the original story.
I say, old chap, it's number 10.
Hellraiser went on to receive a mixture of opinions with critics, with some praising the artistic direction the film took, while others like our boy Roger Ebert here giving the film 1.5 stars out of 4, stating, "This is one of those movies you sit through with mounting dread, as the fear grows inside of you that it will indeed turn out to be feature length." Hellraiser spawned many sequels. Too many. They include Hellbound Hellraiser 2, Hellraiser 3 Hell on Earth, Hellraiser 4 Bloodline, Hellraiser Inferno, Hellraiser Hellseeker, Hellraiser Deader. Oh, they're starting to run out of title ideas here. Hellraiser Hellworld, Hellraiser Revelations. What an inspired title. And Hellraiser Judgment. Fucking judge this franchise. Well, there you go, 10 facts about Hellraiser. Hey, remember, if you enjoyed this video, do please give it a like, as it really does help the channel out a lot. And of course, if you want to see more and you don't want to miss out on anything that happens on here, then please do consider subscribing and hitting the bell thingy to stay notified. And while you're at it, why not check out our other film facts videos? They cover both film and TV. But you know what? Thanks for watching.